What do you do when the one role that gave your life meaning suddenly disappears and no one even notices you're grieving? It's funny how silence can be louder than chaos. For years, the house was never still, voices echoing through the hallway doors, slamming someone always asking Mom, "Where's my?" I used to dream of peace, of one uninterrupted cup of coffee, of a clean kitchen that stayed clean. Now I have all that. The dishwasher hums in a quiet kitchen. The laundry basket is mostly mine. Their bedrooms haven't changed, but they're no longer stages for life. They've become still life exhibits of a time that's over. I walk down the hall and feel like a stranger in my own life. I open the fridge and forget why. I wake up before dawn, not because someone needs me, but because something in me stirs, something hollow. People say enjoy your freedom, but no one tells you how to find yourself again, when the version of you that mattered most left with the backpacks and boxes. This is a story about what happens when the house gets quiet, and a woman starts asking, "Now who am I?" Before the quiet settled in, there was a rhythm to everything. My mornings started with motion, the shuffle of feet, the clang of cereal bowls, the frantic calls from upstairs. "Mom, I can't find my other shoe," or "Did you sign my permission slip?" I could track time by the chaos. The house was alive, and so was I within it. I didn't have much time to think, really. Most days I was a blur of errands, meals, schedules, and messes. And yet beneath all that there was purpose. I was needed, necessary. My name echoed through every room every hour. Not Susan or Mom, but Mom in 20 different tones. It was exhausting, yes, but also anchoring. Back then, I told myself I'd reclaim my life when they're older, when the kids could drive themselves, when college acceptance letters came, when I could finally travel again or read a book without falling asleep on page 4. But now I see I never really thought past the moment they'd leave. I didn't imagine the after, and no one warned me what it would feel like. No one told me that letting them go would feel like peeling off my own skin and watching it walk away. When my youngest drove away for the last time, her car packed with bags and ambition, I smiled. I waved. I told her how proud I was, and I meant it. But when the taillights disappeared down the street, I turned and stood in the driveway and felt unglued. That first night was the strangest. I kept listening for sounds that weren't coming. Footsteps, a door slammed, the quiet click of a lamp turned off in the hallway. Instead, it was just me, the hum of the fridge, the stillness of my own breath. I made myself dinner and sat in front of the TV, unsure whether to cry or enjoy the solitude. I did neither. I just sat. In the weeks that followed, friends would ask how I was. I'd say, "It's weird, but I'm okay." I'd smile and talk about how fast time flies. But in truth, I felt like a ghost in my own home. Everything was familiar, but the center of gravity had shifted. I was still orbiting around a life that had quietly moved on. No one tells you that motherhood, while temporary in its daily duties, imprints itself on your identity so completely that its absence feels like an amputation. I wasn't just their mother, I was motherhood embodied. And now, standing in a house full of silence, I couldn't remember what came before that. I started opening drawers just to feel like I was doing something. Sorting old school papers, finger paintings, college brochures, birthday cards with crooked handwriting. I'd sit cross-legged on the floor for hours holding these little paper fragments and wondering where the time had gone. One afternoon, I found a letter I had written to myself in my early 30s. It was a silly thing tucked into the back of an old journal back when the kids were toddlers. In it, I had promised my future self that one day, when the kids were grown, I'd travel the world. I'd write again. I'd learn Italian. I laughed softly, tears in my throat. That woman felt like a stranger to me now. Idealistic, hopeful, thin, but buried under the dust of years and diapers and dinner prep, she was still me. It was that day, in the middle of a pile of kindergarten drawings, that I realized something strange. I didn't miss my children, I missed myself. And maybe, just maybe, the quiet wasn't here to punish me. Maybe it was here to invite me back. In the days that followed that discovery, the letter to myself, I started noticing things I hadn't allowed myself to see in years. The woman in the mirror, for example. For so long I had passed by her without a glance. Brushing my teeth, applying moisturizer, tossing on a sweatshirt, I never really looked. Not looked. But one morning I paused. I studied her. There were lines where there hadn't been lines. The skin at her jaw was softer now, less defined. Her eyes had that weary brightness, like someone who had stayed up too many nights, worrying about someone else. And yet she didn't look defeated, just changed, weathered maybe, but still standing. I whispered out loud, "There you are." She didn't answer, of course, but she didn't look away either. That became my quiet ritual. Each morning I spent a little time with her. Some days I'd just brush her hair slowly, remembering what it felt like to care for her, to tend to her not because she had somewhere to be or someone to impress, but because she deserved it. I started journaling again. Not long dramatic entries, just little fragments. A sentence, a line of poetry, a single thought I hadn't said out loud. I miss being someone's everything. I don't want to be invisible. I want something just for me. Somewhere in those scribbles I found a thread, a tiny pulse of longing, a whisper of creativity that hadn't died. It had just gone quiet, waiting for a quieter season. And this season, this strange, echoing quiet, was maybe the perfect time. I pulled out my old paints. They were stiff, dried at the edges, reluctant to be revived. Much like me, I thought. But with a little coaxing, some warm water, and patience, the color returned. The first thing I painted was not profound. It was a mug, just a blue ceramic coffee cup, but it felt sacred. It was mine. No school logo, no child's doodle, no chaos behind the brush stroke. Just me and a canvas, and a part of myself I hadn't touched in decades. Then I started walking more. Not the hurried walks of grocery lists and errands, but slow ones. Observing things, feeling the breeze on my arms, watching the way light fell on the leaves. I started seeing the world again, as if I had time to notice it, because I did. I even signed up for a writing class online. At first, I hesitated to share anything. Everyone seemed younger, sharper, more clever. But then I posted a short piece about a woman peeling potatoes and remembering the exact weight of her baby on her hip. It was simple, honest, and the comments I received, they broke me open. This made me cry. I've felt this too. Thank you for putting this into words. And I realized something that still stings in its sweetness. I hadn't been forgotten. I had just stopped speaking. Somewhere between baby bottles and final college tours, I'd buried my voice under the weight of responsibility. I had silenced the writer, the dreamer, the sensual woman, the silly girl. Not out of shame, but out of necessity, because they needed me more. And I was proud to be needed. But now no one was waiting for dinner. No one was knocking on the bathroom door. No one was crying for help, which meant for the first time in over 2 decades I had space. Not just in the house, but in me. And space, I'm learning, is not something to fear. It's something to fill. Not with noise, not with distraction, but with yourself. It didn't happen all at once, this becoming. There was no grand transformation, no triumphant movie montage moment, where I found myself dancing in the kitchen with a glass of wine and jazz music playing. That kind of reinvention is for movies. This one, it was quiet. Like water slowly finding its level. It began with permission. Permission to not rush. Permission to feel the loss and the possibility at the same time. Permission to be both grieving and grateful. I started saying yes to small things, coffee with an old friend, a trip to a museum alone, a blouse that made me feel soft and beautiful. I didn't wait for a special occasion. I wore it on a Tuesday, to the grocery store, because I wanted to feel like I mattered, even if no one else noticed. The truth is, I had spent so many years keeping the machine, running our family, our home, our life, that I forgot I was more than the operator. I was part of it too. And now in the aftermath of raising them, I was free to become someone new. Or maybe someone remembered. I read books I never had time for. I wrote poems I didn't share. I sat with my memories like old friends, sorting through them without judgment. I forgave myself for the years I had been impatient and the ones where I had been too exhausted to be fully present. I stopped needing to be perfect. Perfect was never the point. Showing up had been the miracle. Some nights I'd stand at the back door with a cup of tea, looking out at the yard where my children once played. The swing still hung from the oak tree, swaying just a little in the breeze. I didn't cry as often anymore. I smiled more. Because I had done something remarkable, something no one ever truly prepares you for. I had loved them well, and I had let them go. That is its own kind of birth. But this time it was me who was being born. I began to write again, not just for class, but for myself. Short stories, confessions, fictional characters who sounded suspiciously like the woman in my mirror. And then I began to wonder, how many other women felt this too? How many others were sitting in their quiet homes, feeling invisible and aching to be heard? So I began to speak. Softly, yes, but clearly. I started recording these stories, not with a perfect voice, but with a real one. One that cracked sometimes, one that whispered truths in the dark. And other women listened, and they wrote back, and they said, "That's me." Or I thought I was the only one. And I realized this is what I had been missing all along. Not just identity, not just purpose, but witness. Someone to see me, someone to hear my story, someone to say, "You still matter." And so to the woman sitting alone tonight in her quiet kitchen, to the woman who folds towels in silence and wonders if anyone sees her anymore, to the woman who gave everything and now wonders who is left. I see you. You are not invisible. You are not finished. You are not alone. This silence isn't the end. It's the beginning, and you're just starting to become.